Okay, it looks like we are live, so I want to welcome everybody to the first episode of Building FreePort, my series in the game City Skylines, where I am going to try and attempt to recreate the main city that the book takes place in, Freeport City, as closely as possible as I can, for better or for worse, however that comes out. So I've only had the game for a couple weeks. I'm a relative noob at it. I've been playing around and doing some tests to see how it works and playing with some mods, and I think I've got the gist of it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a go anyway and see how closely we can recreate Freeport from the book, End of the Past, my first book. So before we get started, I thought that I would go ahead and show off a few of the mods that I'm using for anyone that's interested, because I did need a few to be able to recreate the city as easily as possible. So here, really quick, I'm going to run through them. I'm using the unlimited money and unlock all mods. I'm also doing more beautification. All areas purchasable. This way I can use all 25 of the squares that the game gives you, as opposed to just the 3x3, since the city that I'm working with is 4 square miles, plus it has a parks, an area where the arena is that has another 4 square miles, so I needed to be able to use all of those tiles. I'm also using the prop and tree anarchy as well as road anarchy, extra landscaping tools, let's see what else. Tree snapping, random tree rotation, because when all the trees look like a fence, it's pretty awful looking, honestly. I am also using the better bulldozer, because when I start here in just a minute, I need to be able to use roads as a guide, since I'm going to be starting in the map editor. And if I don't have anything to guide, that would make it almost impossible to do. So once I put the roads down to sort of set my grid to use that as a distance guide, I need to go ahead and delete that afterwards. So the best way to do that is with the better bulldozer, since the regular one is a single individual piece of road at a time, which takes forever, and I'm not going to waste my time doing that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, actually, I was going to show you. I'm also using, where is it, Styles? The medieval village. Okay, so the book is set in a time that's sort of like the 1900s, where there's not high technology like there is today, and I couldn't really get a lot of good mods that would go for the exact look of the buildings inside Freeport. But this medieval village offers a lot of really good assets that I've been using, and I like some of their special ones, like the hospital and the school. So I'm going to go ahead and be using that. Otherwise, I'm not really using any extra maps or styles or specific themes. I'm just pretty much using all of the vanilla stuff. But like I said, I am going to be using a lot of the functionality mods, like the prop anarchy, road anarchy, and things like that, to make it so that I can actually get through this and not have to take 4 years to build this. So let me exit out of here, and we will get into it. So like I said, I'm going to be building the city from my book as closely as possible as I can to, I guess, what would be realistic scale. But given that this is a game and not a tool for designing cities, there's going to be, I'm actually going to go with the temperate theme. It's a coastal town, so I think temperate's going to look the best. Since it's not going to be one-to-one, we're going to take a few liberties here and see what we can come up with. So while this is loading, I just want to talk about the setting that it takes place in. So Freeport, I'll go ahead and show you in just a little bit here what it looks like, where it is on the map of the actual continent, and a little bit more about that. But it's a coastal town that's a lot older than mass transit, so a lot of the streets you're going to see are really narrow, so I'm going to have to end up using some of the one-way streets, or the really, really narrow ones. A lot of the houses are brick and stone and built narrow and close together. So I'm going to be trying to use some of the high density, because they have really good looking tall buildings. I'll just kind of say those are houses as opposed to, I don't know, something like condos or apartments. But anyway, let me explain what I'm going to be doing here. So the city is 4 by 4, so it's 4 square miles. And each of these tiles is 2 kilometers according to the game. So I've measured this out, and I need to leave room here so that the coast is actually going to be right here over in this area. So I need to add the ocean. That's where everyone gets their water from. So I need to leave a little bit of room so that you can actually use the ocean for water pumps and things like that. Because if I set the edge of it right here, I won't be able to build anything outside the boundary. Since I have not been able to get the all 81 tile mod to work, I'm going to go ahead and just use the 25 by 25. So the first thing I want to do is create an outline of the city. Like I said, I'm going to move this in probably what would amount to... Okay, so each one of these squares is about 1.25 miles. So halfway would just be a little bit more than half a mile. So this right here is about a quarter mile. So I'm going to bring this down, and this is going to be our first wall. So we need 3 of these tiles. Since 4 miles is 6.4 kilometers, I want to say. So that would mean we need 3 of these. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then we need just a little bit extra. So this is going to give us our outer wall. And again, I'm going to be deleting most of this stuff after the fact. I just need some sort of grid or reference to outline the city so that I can use it as just basically a reference point when I add everything else in. And most of the time is going to be spent in the editor here so that I can get the actual layout before we go start building roads and everything like that. So again, we need another 4 miles, which is 3 squares. So that would be 1, 2, 3, and then about half a square. And yes, I know these aren't perfectly straight, but again, they don't need to be exactly straight. Sorry, something in my eye here. They don't need to be exactly straight since I'm just going to be deleting them anyway. Now we're going to come over and bring our next one. How far down did I come? To about, it looks straight, doesn't it? We'll call that straight. Straight enough. And then we'll come back down here. And okay, so the city of Freeport is actually, let me bring it up here on the browser, is actually surrounded by a wall, which has to do with what took place in the book world a while ago. So we need to build the wall, but that's what the road is basically showing, is where the wall is going to go. So let me get the information up here so that I can share that in just a minute with you. Okay, getting back to the game. So this outline here is where the city needs to be built in. But before I go ahead and do that, I need to add in some of the roads outside of the... No, actually, I think I'm going to start leveling and doing some landscaping. So despite what the title might say, there aren't any mountains in Freeport. However, that doesn't mean it's completely flat. So I'm going to use the level tool here and carve out the ocean so I get that as a reference. I'm going to set the height just at 0 because I don't like to try and deal with the ocean creeping in this. If you set it to like 30 or 40, sometimes you'll notice that when you build something or you set a lake, the ocean decides it likes to creep in. So I'm going to go ahead and use the biggest brush possible here and carve out the coast for the ocean. And I will be building quays and docks and stuff like that when I actually get into the game. So I'm going to go ahead and that might be a little close. Carve out the ocean here. And like I was saying, I need to come as close as possible to this, and I need to have some of this inside the workable area. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to have anything built on the water, and I actually need some of that. So hopefully, yes, I know I'm using a bit large of a tool for this, but it should, yeah, once we get up here and we're not actually building it, I don't need to be as straight. There we go. Okay, now we can use the big tool and carve out the ocean. So while I'm doing this, I want to talk about the schedule and what I'm going to be doing here. So the idea is that this is the first episode in a series where I'm going to try my best to recreate the entire city of Freeport in city skyline. So I'm going to be streaming every single Tuesday night an episode of the series. I will be streaming throughout the week and on the weekends, but those are not going to be part of the series. I'm just going to do something random. I like to play really terrible games. for fun, so I'll be streaming stuff like that, and I like to try and do new releases. So I will be streaming periodically, but it won't be for this specifically. So each Tuesday night I'm going to be working on this. That's what this series is about. So I don't like how sharp that looks because I sort of took a hammer to it. Looks like sort of a terrible coastline, especially if you put the keys on. I don't know if you guys have used them, but they snap sort of like the roads. And if you have really terrible terrain like this, it looks awful, and you can see some of the dirt sticking out. So I'm going to go ahead and use the softening tool. I think I have that selected. Yep, softening tool. So I'm going to go ahead and soften this just a little bit. I'm going to use, I don't know, whatever you want to call that, the piece of lint shape, I guess. It kind of looks like lint. So I'm going to soften this so that when we actually build the key, and yes, I know this is out of the usable space, but I want it to look a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and soften this so that there's actually something you can build on that looks all right. This shouldn't take too long. So once we're done with this, I need to add in some of the landscaping for the city. So the northeast corner of the city, which if you're looking at a map, I'm going to say up there is north, that's east. That just sort of makes sense since the ocean's on the west where the city is. The northeast corner is a little bit higher, and there's a major river that runs. What is that? Is that just waves? I don't know. I might need a... No, that actually looks pretty good for a coast, doesn't it? I mean, anyone think that... I don't know. Is that too shallow to put a key in if anybody thinks... Should be okay, right? We'll go with it for now. I think I'll actually start the softening tool a little bit farther out to keep the edge. I just want to smooth off the terrible brush strokes a little bit here. But anyway, the northeast corner of the city is a little bit higher. There's a major river that runs through the city. And it feeds some of the farmland that takes place outside of the city. So I need to work on the river next, but I need to make sure the coast look... Why is that creeping in? I don't think it's going to creep too bad. What do I have the water level set to, actually? I wonder... let's see, sea level. Okay, sea level 40. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know why that's creeping in. Maybe if I just set it a little bit lower. I'll try setting it to 25 and see what happens. Yeah, I don't think we'll have any issues there. So before I go start adding some of the terrain, I want to show you guys the actual map. I don't have a map of the city. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is because I never had time when I was getting the book published to get a map for each major city. I do, however, have a map of the continent that this takes place on, and I want to actually show you guys the actual painting, the actual piece of artwork that I have in the book that I scanned. So this is the actual original copy of the map that the book takes place in. And Freeport, if you can see, is right there on the coast. So that's where we're working on, is the city right there on the coast. If you want to see it in the grander scale there, I don't know how well you can see that online, but that's what we're going to be working on. That's where this all takes place. So now we need to go over and increase the height of it. So I found an easy way to get sort of a gentle slope. I know that there's a slope tool, which is really cool if you want to do ramps for vehicles and things like that, but I don't actually want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use the level tool, and I'm going to pick a terrain height. I think the default is 40 or 50. Don't quote me on that. Let's see. No, so it's not 40. I want to see kind of what the baseline is. Okay, so it's even higher than that. Maybe, what is it, 60 or something? Yeah, so it looks like it's about 60. So I want to raise this up. I was playing around with it before, and I think 94. That's a little... No, actually, that looks pretty good, because if that's the road, I'll try... let's see, 80. I don't know. I'm trying to get an idea for the scale, how tall that would be. That looks like, what, like 50 feet or something? Let me just drop it down a bit more. See if I can get... I know this thing isn't very precise. Let me just type it in. 82, that might actually be pretty good. Yeah, that's a good height. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom way out here and use the biggest brush I can and make the strength absolutely maximum so that I can go ahead and get it going. Okay, so this section... Oh, actually, that reminds me, I need to show my awesome drawing skills. the map that I'm working off of. So this is the map that I'm working off of with my major artistic talent for drawing. No, it's just my scribbles to get the scale of everything. That's what I'm working off of. So I'm trying to divide up everything according to that. So I will be referring to that. Okay, so the northeast section is raised about like that. So how many blocks? So that's about 2 miles that it, not quite 2 miles that it covers. This raised section actually extends out and up this way. Not quite that far. So up here, and it extends this way about halfway through the city, and then it tapers off heading north. Then there's another raised section, except I don't need as big of a brush, where a lot of the book takes place. I'm not going to give any spoilers for those of you who have not read the book, but what I'm actually creating, you'll see a lot of features prominently in the later half of the book. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in here, and you'll see that it doesn't actually conform to where the road is, but that's why I have the better bulldozers, because when I delete that with a bulldozer, the whole thing will raise up properly. Okay, so we have a little bit of a raise there, and it extends out here, and it droops off down this way. And I will soften that in just a minute. So that is more or less where the hills are, but obviously they're not just cliffs, but I have a little trick that I like for making soft slopes that I was saying without having to use the slope tool. There is another, let's see, so the Parks District is almost dead center. Let's take a look at what we're working with here. Okay, so we've got the 3.5. So if you divide it up, this is not quite center, so this is center about right there. So the Parks District is about there. So the woods behind the Parks District extend out a little bit farther than they do for the rest of the city. So that's what that little knob is right there. Okay, so now to make those slopes, the hills actually look somewhat decent, I'm going to use the soften tool. Is that what I've got? Yeah, the soften tool, and I'm going to keep the size fairly large, but I'm going to drop the strength way down, and I'm going to go back to our little cotton fluff here. And what you do is if you hold it on the very, very far edge, you'll see that it starts dragging it out. I'm actually going to increase the strength a little bit. It starts dragging it out, and it creates a really, really sort of nice... Actually, I can strengthen that just a bit. You'll see a nice, really gentle slope as opposed to something super sharp. So if you hold that around the edge, it'll soften that and make it look sort of like a natural hill or rise in a city without having to use the slope tool on every single piece. So while I'm doing this, I also want to talk about some of the other things that I'm going to be doing on each episode of the stream. So part of the reason I wanted to stream, especially something with my book, is I love to talk about books and video games. Games have had a huge, huge influence on my writing and my creativity. Without all the games that I played, honestly, I wouldn't have had half of the ideas that I had to actually get a book published. I'm going to go ahead and just soften this up here. This will not actually factor into the map, so it's not a big deal, but I'm going to go ahead and soften it anyway. So games have had a huge influence on my writing, and I wanted to sort of bridge the gap between books and games and show a way that you can bring books into game world. And I wanted to talk about writing stories, and if anybody has anything they want to know about getting published or writing, I'm always love to talk about books and games, publishing, writing, anything you guys want to. So each episode I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been playing and what I've been reading. And once I'm done with this, I'll actually show you guys the things that I've been reading and playing lately once this is smooth enough. So you see that nice gentle slope. I might actually want to extend that out a little bit farther just to make it a little bit more shallow. So this is over a mile here, so that should give you an idea of how gradual that slope is. If I just take it out here a little bit more, it'll keep it just as shallow, or even a little bit more shallow. So that looks good over there. I need to do the same thing over here. However, it's a little bit sharper on this end, so I need to be really careful with what I'm doing. I need to, let's see. I actually need to bring that in just a little bit. I think it... Let me actually come down here, and I think we have a scale horse. There is an asset for a horse or something. So I'm going to go ahead and plop that down. I don't remember where it was. I think... environment. Here we go. That's the wildlife spawn point. I don't want that. I think somewhere in here there's ancient, medieval. I thought there was... wouldn't be a vehicle. Well, actually, a car will be... a really good reference point. If hello is one not spawning, am I missing something? Okay, let's. Oh, no brush strength. Maybe I need the point. Okay, I guess. Oh, single. There we go. Yeah, that's actually, if you look at it in reference to the car, that's much too large for what's represented in the book. So I need to slice some of that off. Let me go back to the level tool and figure out what the train height was. Nope, it's what, maybe 60, I want to say? That might be pretty close. Let's see. No, 60 is still not quite it. Let's try 62. No, let's see. Wait, I don't know if I'm actually pressing anything. No, it's still not 65. What is the default train height? 70 maybe? Oops, 70S, because S is now a number. No, that's not it either. Okay, let's try going up to 80 and seeing where it is. So while I'm trying to figure this out, first I'm going to talk about what I've been playing lately, and I don't think this is going to come as any surprise. Yeah, I'm still in love with Zelda. I am not super far into it. I don't want to give any spoilers because I'm sure not everybody... Ooh, that's way too high. I'm sure not everybody's played it yet, but so far I'm absolutely in love with it, and I am playing it on the Switch. I got it on launch day. And I absolutely... I think it's the Zelda that I've been waiting for. I remember back when I was younger... I don't want to spend all night doing this. Playing Ocarina of Time and imagining... riding a pony, riding around the world, and imagining that it was a lot larger than it actually is. And this game actually... Good grief, why can't I get the height right? This game actually feels like what I imagined Ocarina of Time to be. You know, back when I was a kid, when I was playing it, I really sort of pictured this world. You know, it was so new when it came out to me that I really pictured, you know, going everywhere, and I created my own stories as I was playing it. And now coming to play this, it honestly feels exactly like my dream from my childhood of what Ocarina of Time was. So okay, 60, that's it. So I'm really, really happy with how it comes out. And I know some people are complaining about the frame rate, but honestly, I haven't really seen... I mean, I've seen some issues when it's raining and you're in the forest and there's tall grass. Yeah, it does drop a little bit, but really, I haven't seen... too big of an issue with the frame rate, so I have no complaints there. But when I'm not playing that, I'm playing on the 3DS Dragon Quest VIII. I'm about 40 hours into it, and for some reason I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface. I know I had never played it on the PlayStation 1. I played most of the other Dragon Quest games, but I never got around to that one, so this was my first time, and I heard that it was a bit long-winded. And that's an understatement. It took me 20 hours to get to All Trades Abbey to where I could actually get some bloody classes. And now that I can, it's a blast. I really, really enjoy it. But then again, I've always loved... Oops, it was supposed to be 60. I've always loved the Dragon Quest games. 8 was one of my favorites. Oops, 601, I don't want that. Let's see. Why does that always... Okay, let me come down here. Okay, 60. There we go. 8 was one of my favorites. I put a ton of time into that. I like that 8 had the alchemy where you could craft your own items. This one does not, but I guess it's just a small price to pay because I'm enjoying it. But it's not one of those games that you should play if you're looking for a quick RPG because it pretty much defines massive JRPG. But I am... There we go. That looks a little bit better. So there's a hill that this road here that you can see along here is actually going to be the wall that separates the two halves of the city. This is actually a good time to show you what I'm talking about here. So let me get over to the website. You can learn more about what I'm actually talking about here on DispariaBooks.com. This is where I have all the information that and the stories that take place around the book itself. These aren't actually in the book. This is all just extra information for people who are interested in it, who really want to get involved. But this is Freeport City that I'm building. This talks about the wall right here that separates the whole city. If you read down more, you'll learn why it was actually built. But that road there is represents what will be the wall in just a little bit. But there is a rise where the wall is, and it's a hill like this. It's not quite as deep as I had it made out to be, so that looks a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and soften that just a tiny bit with a soften tool now that I've got it the right shape. But I do need to keep it a little bit of a sharp edge because it's a lot steeper than the slopes over in the north end of the city. It's more of a hill than just a gentle slope. So let me see if I can go ahead and get that done. I'm going to use the fuzzy point. I think that'll give me a little bit better of an edge. And just like a real hill, it's not exactly straight, so I like that there's some of this variety into it when I was hacking away with the sculpting tool. So let me go just run down the length of this while I'm doing this, talk about what else I've been playing. Is I just finished Kirby Planet Robot. I was playing that along with Dragon Quest because they're two completely different games, and it's nice to have a little bit of a palate cleanser. I've pretty much played all of the Kirby games, and I love each and every single one of them. I got rid of the Rise in the Parks District, didn't I? I need to go back and add that, so let me hurry and do that. But yeah, I like Kirby Planet Robot a lot more than some of the recent Kirbys that have come out. Crud, that's not what I meant. I think, what did we set it at? Like 84, 88, something like that? If anyone remembers. Let me go down. I gotta write this down for next time so I don't forget. That looks good. We'll do 82. But yeah, I like Kirby Planet Robot a lot better than some of the more recent Kirby games. I thought it was a lot of fun and all the extra stuff. I actually liked the extra battle modes in this one. I wish they were a little bit more elaborate, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So Parks District is, let me look at the map here. So it's a little, for those of you still or just joining, this is the map, the actual city that I'm basing it off of with my amazing chicken skills. This is the Parks District right here, and there's just a little increase or incline behind the Parks District, which is what I'm trying to add now. It's about twice the depth and the little, wait, am I going down? No, I can't tell what I'm, okay. Couldn't tell the perspective from that angle. So it's about a mile long, so I need just around half a square. So that should do it about there. Then let me go ahead and soften it again. So when you read the book, this little section actually, I'm not going to say why because I don't like spoilers in anything. I didn't look at anything Zelda related the whole time for all the years that it was announced. So I really hate spoilers, so I'm not going to be giving many spoilers about my book for those of you who are interested in reading it. But this area here features prominently in the book, so that's why I want to actually make sure I have it represented as accurately as possible, so that if you do read it, you can go, yeah, I remember that, and it looks more or less like you think it should in your head. So let me go ahead and soften this, and then we're going to start working on, let me soften that out a little bit. We need to start working on the river that feeds the city, that empties into the ocean. So the river itself comes from the north and the east here, but it comes. Actually, I can show you on the map since I have that. That's convenient, right? Let's see. So if you see the valley there, it comes from the northeast corner, but that's obviously several hundred miles away. So I'm just going to have it coming straight in from the edge of the map, and we're going to imagine that that's a lot farther away. So we need to dig a trench, but I don't. This is why I put the sea level at 0, is so that when I'm doing this, I don't have to worry about getting the terrain height the same level as the sea. I can keep it a little above it and still have the river flow. So for the river, I like, let's see, was it this shape? Yeah, I think that gives good edges. So the river is fairly wide, coming from the east, and it comes from sort of the northeast corner up here. Let's see, that should be, yeah, that should be good enough to where, I need to make the strength maximum, because if you don't, you have these little rises when you add your water to it, and then the river just kind of spills out and drowns everyone, and I'd rather not just instantly kill everyone. You see, that's why you don't put, you set the water to 0 so that the ocean doesn't creep all the way. It is creeping, and I guess when you cut the edge of the map, but that's okay, since we're going to put the water source there anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, but you need to make sure, that, at least for when I'm doing this, that the strength is 100. Otherwise you get those weird little ridges, and then the water just spills out and drowns everyone, and that's fun, but I'm not playing disaster mode for this. And if I remember correctly from the book, I didn't actually kill everyone in a massive flood, so we're going to avoid the floods for today and draw this in just a little bit here, and then we need to bring one that comes from the north, and that actually comes right along this ridge. That's not a very straight line, is it? We're going to bring it from this ridge line right here, because outside the city walls it's forested and there are farmlands out here, and this water line feeds most of the fields and pastures out there. So this river comes right along the raised landscape right there, and then it meets right outside the city. The two meet up, and then it becomes a little bit larger, so I need to increase the brush size just a bit here. And you'll see the subtle contour right here for the hills. This is a housing district, and this right here, the river sort of follows that to a degree. And then, okay, according to my map here, if I didn't have, I'm just looking at the map that I drew so that I can get the proportions right. So according to this, it's just under 2 miles, so it's about 1.75 miles. And if this is 1.2 miles, where we go, I need it to, so 1 square is about 1.2 miles. So that would be to there. Okay, so it comes about, that's close enough to where it comes in. Then it shoots south for, I want to say, another mile. So we need to come down there. And then there is a lake, which is in, actually, I need to bring it over a little bit more. And we need to start decreasing the brush size because it tapers just a little bit. I'll use a softening tool to blend that a little bit. It comes down just a hair. I'm just looking at my map here to make sure I get it right. To about, let me get the brush size down a little bit more. And then there's a lake right there. Okay. It's a little bit wider than it is long, so we got to go ahead and do that. Now we need to head back up to the main part of the river. That's not quite large enough. Right here. Okay, and that more or less heads north just a tiny bit, and then it separates what will become the industrial district, and that goes right out to the ocean. Good. Okay, let's take a look at it from the sky. Just referencing here again. Yeah, I want to say that's pretty close. I might actually want to shrink the width of it here. It might be a little bit wide, but that's not too hard to do since I actually more or less remember it was 80, right? No, it was 60, I thought. Yeah, I think we had it. Anyone remember 60? Again, I'm writing for next episode. I'm writing down height so that we don't have this issue. Yeah, I think it is exactly 60. Let me. Okay, I might have to just type it in. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and type it in. Not 62, 60. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna actually shrink the width of this just a tiny bit, and the strength is maximized. Yeah, just a tiny bit. Just a little too wide, especially over here, because it does provide a lot of the fresh water for the city, but that's just a little bit too large, and especially since it diverges there and goes partly to the lake, it doesn't need to be as large over in this section. Let's use our handy-dandy measuring truck to see the scale. Where was our it was over here, wasn't it? Okay, we need into single. Yeah, see, look at that compared to a truck. That's like a gaping chasm. That's a car swallowing hole. So I want to actually shrink it maybe a little bit more now that I use our little measuring car. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink it just a little bit more. I will, however, be leaving the the lake the same size, because that's about how big the lake is. It's just the river itself isn't quite that wide. So let's get a bigger brush here. See what we can do. Yeah, there we go. That's going to be a little bit more realistic. Did we get it? How's that look? Yeah, but I'm going to keep it the same size outside of the city. Let's see. Right there. And I am going to go ahead and soften it in just a minute. And then I'm going to throw the water in and see how that works. But I think that looks a little bit... Is the water already creeping in? Yeah, that's okay. I am still going to put a water source, but if the ocean creeps in, we will just imagine that it's not salt water going through the city. And yeah, everything's not withering and dying, so that'll be good. Right here, still a little too wide. Okay, I think I need to go take a look at our measuring truck to see... Let's go back to brush size. Single. Let's see. How big is that for... Granted, this is going to be full of water, and it's not going to look like a giant cliff, but I think that's an accurate size, so we're going to go ahead and go with that. Yeah, that should work just fine. Let me go ahead and throw the water sources in and see if that works. I know, like I said, got the ocean seeping in, but that's not a huge issue. Okay, right there. Make sure it's not going to leak out anywhere. Oop. Hopefully I got that in there. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to put it on 3 times speed just to see how this is going to look. And while it's doing that, let's see. I want to... So I already talked about what I've been playing, but now here's what I've been reading. I don't know if anyone else is a Paul Auster fan, but he was actually... I've been reading his stuff for a long time, probably before it was age appropriate, but I've been... just one sec. Let me get rid of this up here on OBS. Been reading his stuff, and this is his first book in 7 years. I actually almost forgot about him. It's been that long, but so far it's really good, but it's super, super dense. I mean, the last book of his I read, I actually did one of my grad school entrance... Oh, I need to get rid of that, don't I? My grad school entrance essays on, and it was super short. It was Travels in the Scriptorium, and I really liked it, and it was super short. So to go from that to, I think, a 900-page monster is a little bit of a change. We got it from the library, and I don't think I'm going to be able to blast through it. There we go. Before I have to take it back. So it's going to be one of those 2 or 3 library trip books. But I am enjoying it. For anyone that's a Paul Auster fan, he's hasn't lost anything over the past 7 years, and I would really recommend it. But that's pretty much what's kept me busy, other than things like Game Informer, reading for the past little while. So our rivers look good here. I think that's going to be perfectly adequate. I don't think there are going to be any issues with that right there. So now, okay, now we can go ahead and soften the edges of the river. I want to keep them fairly sharp. For one, I don't like it when the water just sort of spills out and drowns everyone. That's not exactly how it looks in the book. And what am I looking for here? Landscaping. Oh, duh, landscaping. Okay, so softening. And I like the sharper edges because it gives a more distinct look to the actual river. But you see these little jagged edges, that little waviness, that's what I want to soften just a little bit. I do like that it gives the texture. I know it was from the tool that I used. I think it was this one here. I know that's where that comes from. But now when I soften it, I want to just reduce that a little tiny bit. So I want to get one that's a little bit larger than the width of that. But I'm going to turn the strength way down. Let's see how 7 does. No, that's a little too hard still. Let me take it down to something like 4 or 5. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Just going to rub it through a little bit. And ideally, once the river fills up, you're not going to notice most of those jaggies. So we'll just go ahead and stick that there. See, some jagged edges right there. I just need to soften it, make it a little bit more natural looking. That should make it look pretty good, but I do like how the river looks. I think I might have to raise it up just a tiny bit. It is sitting a little bit low in the banks, but let me go ahead and soften everything first. I want to soften it so that I know if I'm going to make it overstep its bounds at all. Right there, soften it. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So like I said, it is a pretty wide river in the book that actually comes and feeds the city. It travels from the northeast corner of the valley on the map that I showed you up here. So what happens is the let me see if I can show you. The mountains up here, I can't see. Okay, so the mountains up there, the lakes feed the rivers, which come down and drop down the cliffs and come south and then cut west into the city, and that's where this river comes from. So that's why it is a fairly large river, and it feeds most of the farms and throughout the valley. And that's why they built the city around it, is that there's such a large river there. It was really easy for agriculture. Ooh, what is that? And that's okay. I think I'll just kind of soften that out, make it look okay. So let me just go ahead and soften all of these a little bit. And we're almost done here. I don't think I need to worry about these since they're out of the map. Oh, we want it to look good, don't we? So might as well go ahead and do the whole thing. Just get that softened. Then I know I need to come down and do this side a little bit. Yeah, see some of the teeth in there. Go ahead and soften it. Yeah, like that place looks really bad, but if we go like that, gives a little bit more natural feel. Let me try using this. Yeah, a little bit better. But like I said, I don't want it to be too shallow, because if you do that, the river starts overflowing and then everyone drowns. And that's not quite what we're going for this time. Okay, now I need to actually adjust the river height. So let me go back to the water and see if I can't raise it up just a tiny bit without... Actually, let me zoom way out to see. Wait for it. I think we're okay. I think I can go a little higher, can't I? Not coming out anywhere. I think that should be good. Yeah, okay. That, whoa, wait for it. Oh, why is it twitching? Look at the waves. I didn't know it made waves like that. That's cool. Yeah, I really want to push that. I think that should be good. I'm going to just sort of watch it here for a minute to make sure nothing happens, because I do want that lake to be filled up a little bit more. Once I get that set, then it's going to be time to start adding the trees. And I downloaded a few, for some of the mods, I downloaded specific tree assets. There weren't a huge selection of trees for the mods, so I had to be a little bit vague and picky, but they did have two that I wanted. They had an oak. Let me see. Yeah, an oak mod. I'll show you what that looks like really quick. Just set the strength here. The oaks look really good, and that's actually what's native to the area. So I did download the oak assets, and then I have a bunch of other pine. Let me delete those. I downloaded a bunch of other pine mods that I really like the way they look. So we've got Scots pines. Let's see. Yeah, so two different variants. Norfolk pines. So a few of these. I'm not going to be using those very much, but these pines and the oaks are primarily what I'm going to be using, and I really like the way they look. And with the tree rotation, it actually looks natural, not like somebody went and stuck every single tree in place. So let me go ahead and delete those and check the water to make sure everyone's not drowning. I don't know. Do we think we can push it a little bit higher? Maybe? I mean, is it... Okay, let's look at it up here. I think that's... Oh, measuring truck. That'll give me a clue. So let's go back to our single truck. Oh, yeah. See, I mean, when you look at it from here, that looks like it's a huge chasm. Let me see if I can... delete that since I don't need it. Let me go back to the height and use a reference truck and see what we can do. See how close we can actually get this. So we'll set that there. Okay, now let's really try. Careful, oh, no. Why is it vibrating like that? That's really weird. Every time I try and raise or lower. Yeah, I think that's really pushing it, but that should be okay. Let me just click on it and make sure. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be over. I don't know, those edges might be a little risky. We should be okay. If anyone starts drowning, I'll just lower it a bit. Okay, now we need to start adding the forest because originally, as you can imagine, there was forests that were growing around the river. But when the city started getting built, they started hedging out their the woods. However, they didn't hedge them out everywhere, so some of the woods still exist around the city wall and on the south side down here. This is actually right in here is where the main character in the book lives, Vaughn. His street's going to be there, except we can't put the streets in until we actually get into the game itself. This is still the editor. But behind his house is a forest, and I need to make sure this little rise right here is exact because that's sort of a really, really important part for the book. So 60 was our height, right? Gonna go back. Ooh, way too big. So I need to make sure this looks exactly as it does in the book, since that's probably one of the most important things. And for those of you just tuning in, I'm just using those roads. Whoops, I meant to go up. I'm just using the roads as sort of reference points for to map out the city. So that's a 4 mile, as close as possible as can be done in this game. Since each square is 2 kilometers, that means I needed a little over 3 squares. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 3.5 squares. So that's the 4 mile square. I'm just using the roads. I'm going to go ahead and delete those before I actually get into the game. I'm just using those for reference. But I needed those for a little bit of perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and flush that out just a little bit. Okay, now I need to soften it again. Then we're going to go ahead and add the trees. Where's my soften tool? Okay. We don't need the strength at 100, though. I think this will be... Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So yeah, during these streams each Tuesday, if you want to keep tuning in to talk about everything that, besides just the book, I want to talk about, like I said, what I've been reading and what I've been playing. So, feel free to join in and let me know what you've been playing or talk about the things that I've been playing, because that's, like I said, games have helped inspire me to write. So games and books in my mind are not two separate things. They're sort of intertwined. I just happen to start writing as opposed to be a game developer, but I really like talking about stories and creating worlds and things like that. So be sure to come back each Tuesday night and talk about what you've been playing, what's been inspiring you. Like I said, I've been playing Dragon Quest VII on the 3DS and Zelda on the Switch, and loving both of those so far. Okay, I think that's good. There is a quarter mile out. So a quarter mile, let's see, if one of these squares is 1.2 miles, so that's about 0.6 miles, so a quarter is just a little bit more. There is a bit of a ridge that comes out. That is not what I needed. There is a bit of a ridge that comes out another little hill. Make sure it's going up, not down. Yeah, okay, so there is a bit of a hill there. And it comes out, and it's a little softer on the edges, where two neighborhoods are separated by, let's see, it's about that size, and it comes up just over a quarter mile. Yeah, that looks about right. So let me go ahead and soften that a little bit, give it a little bit more of a natural look, and then I can start on the trees. Once we're all done sculpting everything, then we'll actually get into the game and start letting the city sort of build itself, I guess. But I need to get the bones of what the city is as close as possible to what it actually looks like. So I think, let's just sort of take an aerial view. I think that looks good. Let me just do a massive soften of this stuff really quick, of the lower section. We'll worry about this lower section a little bit later, since this is where the arena is. If you check out the history of Freeport on my website that I just showed a little bit earlier, you'll be able to see learn a little bit more about the arena. But it's out in this region here, and I will get to that later, but that's something I have to do in the actual game itself. This is just, like I said, the bare bones constructing what the city the city's built around. So okay, now we can get to the trees. I have to be pretty precise about this since I will be placing the actual roads in it later on. So I'm going to start with the oaks that I downloaded. I think they were the first one. Tree with leaves, oaks. Okay, here we go. So I need to be really selective, and make sure it doesn't creep. So I want to use the brush that has a firm and fine edge. You see, if I use something like this, then and if I place it there, I'm going to start getting trees down in this area, and there aren't any because that's where that's where the actual houses go. So I'm going to use the very distinct brush here. I need it, and I need the strength at maximum so that. Actually, let me see how quickly maximum fills up. Yeah, I need it at maximum. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep the trees. You know what? I'm going to be dragging it slowly, so I'm going to drop the strength down just a little bit. Okay, yeah, so there are trees on the slope, but there aren't any below that. So I need to be really careful that I don't let see, like that guy right there. Even that won't do. So I need to be really precise and make sure I don't get the edge too far down. But otherwise, I need to delete the road now because I don't know if the trees will respawn there after I delete it. Let me turn this on because my worry here now is that the trees won't. Yeah, see, the trees won't appear there even though I put the brush. So let me go ahead and delete this marker since we have. I have the shape on the cell done. I don't need that for reference anymore. Okay, let me go back and see what's going on with this. I need to level that out before I can get back to the trees. So I think we were at 80, were we not? If anyone remembers, let's see. Yeah, 80, sweet, got it. Okay, now the Freeport city wall is built along this little ridge line right here, but it was built between the trees. They didn't clear out all the trees, so there is a forest on either side of it. So that's why I am using the brush. Let me see. That's what I was doing. Yeah, I'm using the brush to come along the whole ridge right here. But like I said, the city is actually built down in this area, so I don't want any trees off of the slope. So I'm going to go really carefully and get it as close as... See, even that I need to just take the edge to right there. So this area I need to be super careful. Little bit of concentration. But yes, if anyone wants to let me know what they've been playing or reading, I would love to talk about it during these streams. And as I said, each stream is going to be Tuesday nights each week. I will be streaming more often throughout the week and sometimes on the weekends, but that's not going to be part of the regular. That's not going to be part of my Building Freeport show. That's just going to be fun goofing off streams where I play crappy games, new releases, things like that. Because I love looking to see some of the really, really terrible games on Steam, especially the ones you can find for about 50 cents, and doing blind Let's Plays of those because I've always enjoyed really awful games. I actually went out of my way to try and find Superman 64, if that puts that in perspective. I got it for $1, and it came with a broken controller. So yeah, somebody was really desperate. They gave me the game and a controller that was super nasty looking and worked for about a month. They gave me both of those for $1 because they were so desperate to get rid of it. So playing crappy games is honestly almost as fun as playing something like Zelda. Yes, not exactly as fun because, you know, Zelda's actually a good game. But playing terrible games is, you know, there's a lot of fun to be had there. So I will be streaming some terrible games, some weird games, things like that. And I will be putting I will be putting the schedule online. If you go to dispariabooks.com, you can see the calendar over on the right, and from my Twitch channel, you can access it. When I start playing something, I will be leaving notifications when I do something out of the regular schedule. But plan on each Tuesday night continuing the series, and I'm going to plan, at least for now, doing an hour each Tuesday. As time progresses, I might go shorter or longer, but you know, I'm going to plan a firm hour each Tuesday night, so you can look forward to that and seeing the city sort of, I guess, come alive. And in that time, I would encourage you, not shameless plug or anything like that, kind of shameless plug, but I would encourage you to take a look at the book and the website, so you sort of know what's going on. It'll put everything in a bit more perspective, and it'll actually make it a lot more fun to watch the series. And when you read the book, it'll make it a lot more fun to have an idea of how to visualize everything. So I would encourage you guys to do that. And as you can see on the stream, if you buy it in paperback from Amazon, You can actually download the ebook version for free, so that's a nice little bonus if you have a Kindle or an iPad or anything like that. Okay, so next we need to move on to the pines. Now I want to select just the right pine for this, so I'm going to go ahead and put a few different patches of pines and see which one looks... Oh, that's way too big, so that's not going to work. Black pines. So some of these are built into the game. I'm actually kind of like the way the black pines look, and the island pines. So I think I'm going to use a combination of those two. So oaks are the primary tree throughout the city, but there are these pines interspersed. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back and add pines into the mix. And when you get the two layered together, it really does give a good impression of sort of a natural forest feel. If you want to take a look and see from this perspective, let me actually come down a little bit lower so you can see it straight on. When you're looking at it, you get a nice, get rid of the cursor, you can actually get a nice feel for a forest. And doing several layers of that is going to make it, give it a little bit of realism that I need when I actually start building the city in the game. Whoops, in the game itself. So I would imagine that I'm only going to need one more episode of constructing the city like this before we get into building it, and that's where the real fun begins, where I'm going to have to go ahead and put every single little street in the entire city. So go ahead and take a look at a map, or check out Google Maps and take a look at a city and just see how many streets there really are. So you know it's sort of a daunting task I have ahead of me, but it should be, I mean, unless things go wrong, which, you know, building something, they inevitably will. Unless things go wrong, it's going to be a lot of fun to see it sort of come alive, but I'm a little worried about how hard it's going to be to recreate every single city, or I mean every single street and neighborhood. And one thing I want to point out before I actually start building in there is that not all of the houses are going to look absolutely correct, because this game, I don't know if there's a way to force it to use certain assets when you are building like a residential, a high density or low density residential. I don't know if there's a way to force it to use only specific assets. So not all of the houses are going to look exact for what they're supposed to be in the book, but that's just because I can't find a mod that's exactly what I need, since I don't have I have a feeling nobody actually went out of their way to create a mod for a book they haven't read yet that just came out. So the houses and some of the buildings are not going to look as accurate as it should, but with that mod that I installed, the medieval theme, and a little SpongeBob style imagination, it'll look all right. Okay, let me go ahead and add another layer here. Then I'm going to add one more layer, but I'm not going to be as precise, of the pines that come with the game, and then we're going to call it good. Which one was it? Was it the black pine that I liked, or was it no, I think it was the black pine. Yeah, I like the black pine. I like the way that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more layer of trees, and then that will I'm about wrap it up for this week's show. It's about 7 o'clock right now. Like I said, I will be back next Tuesday to continue this build, and I have no idea how many episodes this is going to be. I'm going to actually increase the strength, since I want to run over this pretty quickly. I don't know how many episodes it's going to take to get the city 1-to-1 as close as possible, but you know, that's what I'm here for, is just to sort of play around, have fun, and see what's going on. And I encourage you, when you join me each time live, to join chat and talk about what you've been playing, what you've been reading, anything like that, since that's a big part of what I want to do with the show, is just sort of talk about being creative and writing and game development, anything like that you want to talk about, since obviously reading and books and games are, in my world and in my mind, very, very connected, which is pretty obvious since I'm building a book world in a game. So I want to bring those two things together. So I encourage you guys to just let me know what you've been reading and playing, and we can talk about that. I don't imagine what I've been playing is going to change, since Zelda and Dragon Quest are both massive games. The only way I could finish Zelda before next week is if that's pretty much literally all I did, and I do like breathing and eating, so I think I will refrain from just playing Zelda as much as I want to. I think Linda would probably have an issue with that as well. That's all I did. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this line of trees here and take a look at it, and then I will wrap up the stream for the night. I appreciate everyone watching, whoever was live, and if you guys are catching this on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And give me any tips or pointers or ask any questions you have about the book or about the build or about the game. Because like I said, I'm just sort of learning the game as I go. I haven't... I need to actually make this stronger. If you look up at the tree count, it's not adding them very quickly. I haven't been playing it very long, so I'm sort of learning as I go. So if you have played this game and want to give me some pointers, or you want to pick it up and want to learn with me, that would be really cool. So let me add these trees here, zoom out, take a look, make sure our river isn't overflowing and drowning all of our future people. No, the river actually looks really good. I'm happy with how that came out. So it might not look like we did much, but we've got a pretty good grasp on what Freeport is going to look like as far as a general layout. So I'm going to go ahead and save the map. As I am doing this, let's see, Building Freeport 1. So as I go ahead and do this, as I get something that's actually worth sharing, I'm going to share these on the Steam page so that you can download those, and I will let you know where you can get that and when you can get that. But obviously it's way too fresh and new to be worth sharing at this point. But down the road, I will be sharing the map as I get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out for the night and ask you guys to join me again next Tuesday at the same time. And thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys can pick up the book and take a look at the website and see what you think, and come back with a little bit of perspective. And like I said, feel free to chat about what you've been playing or reading, and we will go from there. So I appreciate everyone coming and watching, and like I said, like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys next week or throughout the week playing other games. But check the calendar for the schedule for any other games. But until then, I will see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks a lot, and we will see you then.